US-Angriffe auf den Iran eskalieren, Hormuzstraße ist umkämpft, Agachi warnt vor Point of No Return. Was als nächstes passiert, Freunde? Ich bin der Adi von TranslatedPress und ich grüße euch ganz herzlich aus der Ferne. Nach eigenen Angaben hat das US-Militär in den vergangenen Tagen die dritte Angriffswelle innerhalb einer Woche geflogen. Laut CENTCOM wurden dabei rund 140 iranische militärische Ziele getroffen. Auslöser war ein Angriff der iranischen Revolutionsgarden auf ein unter zyprischer Flagge fahrendes Containerschiff in der Straße von Hormuz. Der Iran reagierte nach eigenen Angaben mit Vergeltungsschlägen, unter anderem gegen einen Luftwaffenstützpunkt in Jordanien. Berichten zufolge gab es zudem Angriffe auf Ziele in Bahrain, Kuwait, Katar und Oman. Und die Straße von Hormuz selbst ist offiziell umstritten. Der Iran erklärt sie für geschlossen und die USA und internationale Reedereien bestreiten das. Fest steht eines, Freunde, große Frachtschiffe meiden die Route derzeit weitgehend. Irans Außenminister Abbas Araghchi hat sich in den vergangenen Tagen mehrfach öffentlich geäußert. Er wirft den USA vor, ein zuvor vereinbartes Memorandum gebrochen zu haben und er kündigte an, man werde nicht mit Vulgarität auf Vulgarität antworten, sondern mit Handeln. Und zeitgleich reiste er nach Oman gestern, um über eine mögliche Deeskalation zu sprechen, während Präsident Donald Trump erklärte, die Waffenruhe sei ein und allemal vorbei. Ein Hinweis, liebe Freunde, einzelne in Umlauf befindliche Details, etwa eine offizielle saudische Kriegserklärung, eine Sonderabgabe auf Frachtschiffe oder eine Invasion durch kurdische Kräfte, sind bislang nicht durch internationale Nachrichtenagenturen bestätigt worden. Wir kennzeichnen das hier bewusst als unbestätigt, statt als den Fakt zu verkaufen. Die Ölfrage, wie sieht es mit dem Preis des Erdöls aus? Ein Faktor, den viele immer noch unterschätzen. Die Ölpreise entgegen mancher Behauptungen, sie seien unberührt geblieben, zeigen aktuelle Marktdaten genau das Gegenteil. Die Preise sind zuletzt spürbar gestiegen, weil Reeder und Händler eine dauerhafte Störung der Route durch die Straße von Hormuz jetzt einpreisen. Und der Historiker und Militärexperte Victor Davis Hanson von der Hoover Institution hat sich zuletzt öffentlich zu dieser Strategie gemeldet und sein Kerngedanke sinngemäß zusammengefasst bedeutet, die USA zielten inzwischen ganz gezielt auf Energieversorgung des Irans und dem Regime, den langfristigen Handel, Import und Export zu erschweren, eine Strategie der wirtschaftlichen Auszehrung statt einer kurzfristigen Symbolschlägerei, also Bombardierung. Ob das reicht, um das Regime tatsächlich die Knie zu zwingen oder ob es zu einer gefährlichen Zermürbung auf beiden Seiten kommt, darüber gehen jetzt die Einschätzungen komplett auseinander. Genau hier wird es brisant, denn was als nächstes in den kommenden 48 Stunden zu erwarten ist, könnte darüber entscheiden, ob dieser Konflikt eingedämmt bleibt oder ob wir vor der größten Eskalation seit Kriegsbeginn stehen. Wir haben Hinweise auf Entwicklungen, die wir in den nächsten Stunden verifizieren. Und sobald wir gesicherte Informationen haben, die bestätigt sind, bekommt ihr sie hier zuerst. Ich verspreche euch das. Was denkt ihr darüber? Steuert das Ganze auf Verhandlungslösungen zu oder auf eine offene Eskalation? Schreibt es bitte unten in die Kommentare, lasst einen Daumen hoch da, wenn euch die Einordnung geholfen hat. Abonniert den Kanal, damit ihr die nächste Entwicklung nicht verpasst. Und jetzt geht es los mit Victor David Hanson und ich verspreche euch, das wird spannend und das wird brisant.
We need to up the level of damage we do to Iran, and unfortunately that might entail dual targeting electrical plants. We need to up the level of damage we do to Iran, and unfortunately that might entail dual targeting electrical plants, roads, bridges, and the actual barracks, camps, military facilities of all the various aspects of the Iranian military. And then once we feel that they are so attrited, they're not going to pose a serious threat to those who are keeping the strait open, then we can go and remove most of our assets back home. Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. We're now in the 134th day of quote-unquote the war with Iran. I'm speaking on July 12th. But we got to remember that we've really only had March and April. We started on February 28th, about 38 days until we stopped fighting on April 8th. So we're really talking about 90 plus days of negotiations and 38 days of actual fighting. That should tell us something about what the Iranian strategy is. They want to talk, and they do not want to fight. We want to fight and get over and go home, and they don't. And they, because of the length of the negotiation vis-a-vis the kinetic part, they may be in an advantaged position. Part of the problem is that we have knocked out the four centers, at least three of the centers of the four of their government. The theocracy, with the death of Khomeini and the disabling of his son and killing of many of the others, is sort of inert. We've taken out a lot of the heads of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. There's a lot of military planners that were central to Iran's military, industrial, and nuclear complex that are gone, and we have a few elected leaders. And so that's who we're dealing with, but we're not sure if they are good cops and the rest of what's left are bad cops, or if anybody's any cop. So where do we go from here? What's happening right now is we have no war and no peace. That is, about every day and a half or every other day, what's left of the bad cops, that is the theocracy, the military, and the Guard Corps, freelance, and they hit one of the Gulf states or a tanker. Notice they don't ever hit Israel. They don't ever hit Israel because Israel has announced that their response will be disproportionate and aimed at the surviving government. So they don't do that. We haven't said that. But every other day they do that, and now we're starting to respond disproportionately, and that means for every 50 or so strikes, we have 120 or 130. But that itself will go on and on and on. What we need to do is to find a way to do two things. One, stop their ability to make any strikes. And that can be accomplished various ways. We can either stop all of their supplies, and I mean all of them. That is, we can take out their airlift capacity, their airport. We can take out all the rail lines overland to China. We can take out the Caspian seaports. We can not allow any seaborne traffic into Iran. And we can take out their electrical generation plan, short out the grid, take out more. We can stop their ability to make war rather than just hunt for an individual target, a missile target or a launcher pad or something like that. And then we have to make the conditions for which we can go home. We did the hard work. They're no longer a threat. We've taken out their 47-year, $500 billion military investment. There's a lot of other vested interests that would like the Gulf open, particularly the Gulf Council states, the Europeans, the Japanese, the Chinese, South Koreans. So we need to make Iran so weak if they do not want to negotiate, and we're not going to get into this tit-for-tat cycle, that these other countries will be able to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. In other words, we'll leave maybe a rotating carrier group that comes in periodically, a few ships, and they will help organize a flotilla that keeps the strait open if we have done enough damage to their military that it has no ability to oppose the opening of the strait. So what am I getting at? I'm getting at we need to up the level of damage we do to Iran, and unfortunately that might entail dual targeting, electrical plants, roads, bridges, and the actual barracks, camps, military facilities of all the various aspects of the Iranian military. And then once we feel that they are so attrited, they're not going to pose a serious threat to those who are keeping the strait open, then we can go and remove most of our assets back home and outsource it to the people who have a vested interest in keeping the strait open. That's not us. We're independent of it. Our only interest in keeping the strait open is so that our allies don't suffer from a global recession. There's some good news. The price of oil has stabilized now. China is importing less. It's turning to coal power, perhaps for its industries to produce electricity, but more likely their electrical car industry is growing and growing and growing. Maybe they feel they can cut back on oil. They're cutting back about 4 million barrels. Venezuela's pumping more. Russia's trying to pump more. The United States is pumping more. There's apostates who have left OPEC. UAE is pumping more. The pipelines to the Red Sea and to the Gulf outside the strait are now open. So it hasn't been the catastrophe everybody thought. There's not a global shortage of oil. In fact, we're looking probably at a global glut pretty soon of oil that will radically take the price down. The second thing is that the midterms for the Republicans are not lost. The Senate, the Democrats only have a 50 chance, maybe perhaps less, to take the Senate. A lot will depend on who takes Mitch McConnell's place if he's unable to continue as senator. There's a Democratic governor who will appoint somebody if he should not be able to take his place back in the Senate. But the midterms are not lost. There's been redistricting, both the Stop Racial Gerrymandering and Red State has outdone the blue state in redistricting. That might pick up 9 to 10 to 11 seats. And then the latest development, it's in association with what we've seen with Graham Plattner. The other aspect is the Democratic Party cannot really hide its socialist, Islamicist, and even communist base. And there's going to be a lot of high-profile candidates, not just at the congressional level, but perhaps in Texas and maybe Mr. Al-Sayed in Michigan, and in some governor's races where they're openly calling for issues, agendas, policies that are antithetical to not just Americans' belief now, but the whole idea of founding of America. That's not going to play well. And in addition, the Republicans are probably going to have somewhere between $100 and $200 million more dollars to spend. What does that mean? It means that if Donald Trump is able to inflict a level of damage, that the Iranians will either concede almost immediately, whoever they are, and I mean, I'm talking about the most extreme elements, say we can't take any more of this, or if they don't concede, he's able to hit a number of sites, as I outlined, dual-use targeting, where they're not going to be able to hurt anybody else, at least for 4 or 5 years. Then the bulk of the forces can go home, and a residual force can help organize our allies to keep the strait open, which will be pretty easy to do if we can get rid of their missile fleet and what's left of their navy. So once again, we are in a cycle of tit for tat. The good news is militarily that we are starting to respond much more disproportionately, which we should have done in the beginning, and we're starting to catch on that the Iranians are either not serious, or they're playing bad cop, good cop, or nobody's in charge at all. But that's all irrelevant. All that matters is that we use enough force to prohibit Iran from hurting its neighbors or attacking. We have that power. If we use it, the war will end. There'll be time for the Republican administration to concentrate on the economy and the midterms, and we have allies in the region and without that have all the power they need to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Thank you very much. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal.
Hey folks, you know that males have inherent athletic advantages over females, and no one should be punished for recognizing that truth. And guess what? The U.S. Supreme Court knows it too. Just days ago, the court ruled that under both the U.S. Constitution and under federal law, states are free to protect female athletes. That means girls can compete on a level playing field in 27 states. Now we must fight to ensure the remaining 23 states stand up for safety and fairness too. That's really important for girls like Kaylee Keeler, a high school wrestler in Washington state who was sexually assaulted by a male during the middle of a competition. No female should have to experience what she did. Sign Alliance Defending Freedom's petition to protect female sports now. Visit joinadf.com/Hansen or text Hansen, Hanson, to 83848 to add your name to their declaration and side with truth and fairness. That's joinadf.com/Hansen or text Hansen to 83848.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Signal. Please like, share, and subscribe to be notified for more content like this. You can also check out my own website at victorhansen.com and subscribe for exclusive features in addition.
Hallo, ich bin der Adi von TranslatedPress. Wir übersetzen Nachrichten aus den USA für euch dort, wo niemand sich die Mühe macht, in Wort und Schrift mit echter Stimme direkt aus der Quelle. Schaut vorbei, informiert euch. Alles Gute, ciao, ciao.